All right, looks like we're live. Let me just double check, make sure everything's loading up properly. Everything sounds okay. And come on, go live. All right. Okay, sounds like it should be fine. All right, so I haven't done any streams in the last few days. I guess since Saturday because I've been actually away on a trip. My dad wanted to. He's been wanting to go to Michigan for a while to see the Ford Museum and take a tour of the Ford plant, all that good stuff. And since I am a jobless bum here recently, I went with him because I don't really like him driving that far. I mean, it's a good 8-9 hour drive. So I was away for a couple of days, and there was quite a few news stories in the last few days. Sunday there was the Facebook killer claimed he killed 14 people and live stream killing the one old man. As far as I know, he only killed the one and then killed himself as the police were chasing him. Didn't even get his McNuggets that he wanted at the end there. But yeah, good riddance to that piece of shit. It's shameful though that it took that long to find him. I mean, as people have joked for the last few days, 4chan can find where Shia LaBeouf's hidden based on fucking clouds, and the police can't find a motherfucker who live streamed a murder with his phone. The other news, and I guess this is today it was breaking. I was listening to Rush talk about this. What was it? Down in Georgia, they were doing some runoff election because the guy who was in this seat, I can't remember off the top of my head if this was a senator or Senate or House. But the guy who was in this seat, Trump appointed to something, so they had to do a special election. Well, the Democrats are treating this like this huge victory against Trump. What ended up happening was they ran a young photogenic guy with a, photogenic girlfriend, and they didn't even get the majority. They got the plurality because the Republicans, being the often incompetent fools the Republican Party is, were running like 11 motherfuckers. So they split up their majority vote 11 ways. And this guy went, but he didn't win yet. That'll go to a runoff election with him and I guess the second place person, the top Republican. And in my opinion, this will be in June. He'll probably lose that. So, and the Democrats have been treating this like it's the biggest fucking victory in the world. And, he can't, it's nothing, it's nothing. And, but again, they're running around today like, oh, show me. The Democrats are just, I guess, so desperate for a fucking win. Which is good. I'm glad that's the position they're in. I'm glad this non-victory is something that they're all celebrating over. That's wonderful. I don't believe he'll win in the runoff election, and if he does, no damn big deal. It doesn't even it doesn't even make a difference in the overall composition of the Senate or House. I'm sorry, folks. Hang on one second. I got somebody at the door here. Sorry about that, folks. The perils of a live stream. Some kids selling sandwiches for some charity or some crap. Hoagies or something. All right. Anyways, where the hell was I? Like I said, perils of a live stream. But yeah, this was a nothing. It was, not even a victory. It was not a loss. Also, the Democrats spent 5 times as much money there. As much as this Democrat guy in his victory speech was denouncing outside money, he's the one that got all the outside money, and he got way more of it. The Democrats spent $10 million to the Republicans, all totaled 2, which is on 2 million on 11 candidates. This was absolutely pathetic. And the other big story this week is Bill O'Reilly's gone. He's been pushed out for sexual harassment shit. Oh, Vox Day had an interesting take where he pointed out that like no one's too big to be taken down over SJW nonsense. And this is why you need your own platforms. You can't rely on corporate media. You can't rely on, corporate platforms at all. Even YouTube can be yanked out from under us. We see this with a lot of big guys being demonetized rather unfairly. And there's something to that, but I don't think this was necessarily SJW bullshit this time. Bill O'Reilly is probably really a harasser of women, probably sexually assaulted women. I really wouldn't doubt any of that. This isn't bullshit. This isn't office lady, HR lady bullshit. Anybody who's paid attention to him knows that guy is a shithead. That guy is an arrogant, entitled, self-absorbed cocksucker of a human being. And based on what we know of his personality, combined with the sheer number of complaints, yeah, I think this is probably a Bill Clinton type guy. This is probably somebody who can't, who's constantly, going up to the intern's desk and sticking his dick in her coffee or something. Just can't fucking behave. He's a shit. He's a fucking bully too. It's he cuts off people's mics. He does this, puffs his chest and all this bullshit paper alpha fucking, body language and all. And then when you get it's funny too, when you see him interviewed by Trump or something, you get actually a real alpha there. Bill basically rolls over and shows his belly. I've never liked Bill O'Reilly. I've never been impressed by him. For the well over 15 years now that I've been watching politics regularly, and I, watch the cable news channels a lot. Fuck that guy, man. He's basic bitch, kind of conservative, sort of left of center, or sort of right of center. He's everything wrong with the boomers in his politics. He's a neocon shithead who was a pretty big media factor in pushing the Iraq war nonsense back around 10 years ago now, I guess. Yeah, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. I do not see his appeal. He writes these basic bitch history novels now that boomers eat up. I don't get it. Now, he is insanely popular. But I often wonder if that's not just the fact that Fox News was very popular over the years, being the only major conservative TV outlet. And, he had that prime slot. He had the 8 o'clock slot. You almost have to wonder if anybody would have fucking been popular 8 o'clock on Fox News. But yeah, Bill O'Reilly's a shithead. And, don't cry for him. He's worth tens of millions of dollars easily, and he doesn't need to work again. He probably will try and find some outlet because he has to feel relevant. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going over to MSNBC or CNN to be their token fucking conservative just to still be on TV. Be their Joe Scarborough, their fucking whipping boy. And maybe he wouldn't be able to handle that. I don't know. He might not be able to handle being the top dog, but who knows? Boy, Keith Olbermann must be fucking jacking himself off all night tonight, though. That's the one guy Keith Olbermann hated more than anybody else. Anybody else. He's got to be fucking He's got to be jacking his little pud all night long to that story. I mean, but the right wing loses nothing losing Bill O'Reilly. We lose less than nothing. In my opinion, we lose a net negative, as it were. Especially since Variety, at least, was reporting that Tucker Carlson's taking over the 8 a.m. slot. So that's a fucking upgrade and a half. Oh, fuck Bill O'Reilly. Fuck, that's... I just saw a video, Stixenhammer pointed this out. He reminded me of it, because I remember this. But during the Iraq War, you had one of these anti-war groups, and it was the wives or the kids of dead veterans or something, and Bill O'Reilly's calling them un-American, or it was like, he's just pure neocon bullshit from him. You know, you're un-American if you didn't support the Iraq War, the greatest foreign policy blunder in the United States history since getting involved in World War I. But I don't know about the border wall. That might be a little rough. He's always been wishy-washy on that, on, you know, shit that actually helps the country. But yeah, and I mean, yes, a ton of old fucks watch him, and I'm sure they're a voting dynamic, but they're going to watch Fox News no matter what. Tucker's going to bring in some young folks too. Fuck Bill O'Reilly. Ultimately, I think Fox News is better off with him. And you know, the other thing is, Bill, again, they had to keep cleaning up this sexual harassment bullshit from him. This isn't the first one we've heard. Over and over and over again, there's been claims of this that Fox has had to make go away. And that's the thing about it. No matter how good you are at the rest of your job, you tend to really piss your boss off if you keep making the same fucking mistake over and over and over again, especially if it's a very, very, you know, avoidable mistake. Like, just stop pulling your dick out at inopportune times, Bill. All right, just stop doing that. Stop talking about loofahs and hot chocolate and all this other bullshit. All right, just stop doing that. But he just couldn't. He couldn't fucking help himself. So yeah, fuck Bill O'Reilly. We lose nothing with Bill O'Reilly. If anything, you know, the sad thing is he retires on a pile of money. You know, that's the sad part of this story. You know, ideally he'd be going bankrupt like Glenn Beck. Yeah, fuck it. We'll do it live. Somebody in the comments. Yeah, that's the real Bill O'Reilly. You know, and I mean, you just look at him, you can tell it's always under the surface. He just, yeah, fuck Bill O'Reilly. He, on a personality level, he is as much of a shitbag as Keith Olbermann. Every bit as much of a shitbag as Keith Olbermann. Keith Olbermann just seems like more of a shitbag because he's got all this bullshit communist fucking propaganda he spouts out. Whereas Bill O'Reilly just spouts out fucking neocon bullshit. But on purely, as far as how they are as a man, they're basically the same guy, is what it is. And you get right down to it. They're basically the same guy. That's why the pair of them fucking hated each other so much. That's why the entire time Keith Olbermann had the 8 o'clock slot on MSNBC, Bill O'Reilly was his fucking white whale. And every time Keith Olbermann managed to get even partially close to Bill in the ratings, he just fucking jacked himself off on TV like, yes, look at this. Always jacking himself off to the fact that he did better than Bill in the ratings for every group under basically fucking 60. Actually, I think it was like 55. But don't think that it was a one-sided feud. Bill O'Reilly hated Keith Olbermann something fierce. In fact, there was actually a time when somebody like Bill O'Reilly would on it when he had a radio show still. I don't know if he does or not anymore. I doubt it. But when you would call into his radio show, he would immediately throw you off the air if you even mentioned Keith Olbermann. You could start like talking about like, oh, I hate that Keith Olbermann guy. He'd throw your ass off for saying the name. Guy was like the fucking Harry Potter villain on O'Reilly show. He who should not be named, right? And there was actually one time when somebody started talking about Keith Olbermann who had called in, and Bill O'Reilly said, like, he said something about I traced the call and Fox News security is coming to your house or something. He said some ridiculous shit like that. Like he's sending fucking hired goons to come get you because you dared to mention Keith Olbermann's name. Those two had quite the fucking rivalry in the 2000s. Yeah, it was something, and really, Bill O'Reilly should have never been that threatened by Keith Olbermann because Keith Olbermann was never that much of a threat in the ratings. But again, they're basically the same guy, and you know, we hate no one more than someone who is a reflection of our own faults, or even an exaggeration of our own faults. But yeah, I'm sure Keith Olbermann is just fucking jacking it. You know, the last time he jacked it this hard was when Jamal was over with his wife. I mean, but yeah, Bill O'Reilly, you know, we're all better off without Bill O'Reilly, especially if Tucker Carl. And again, it's just Variety reporting it, so take that with a grain of salt, at least as far as I know. But if Tucker Carlson's taking his place, yeah, we are all much better off. Much better off. Let's see. Somebody says Michael Savage is an honorary goy. Yeah, I like Savage. I like him a lot. And in the last few years, he's managed to show that he's not quite the neocon I once thought he was. He did buy into a lot of that Iraq war bullshit early on. But I realize now that it was more A, patriotism on his part, and B, just a hatred of the Muslims, which at the time I wasn't on board with, but once you've been exposed to them enough, you realize, yeah, this is incompatible with any sort of real civilization. Oh, what a busy few days for me. I don't know if any of you have ever been to the Henry Ford Museum, but it's actually just called the Henry Ford. There's a few things that were noticeable. There's like an outside thing where it's sort of a recreation of turn of the last century kind of Americana village and that sort of shit. And first of all, the one thing that they're pimping all over the place is the show called Innovation Nation, which it's not even called the Henry Ford Museum or Institute. It's just called the Henry Ford. But anyways, that the Henry Ford sponsors this show, created this show, whatever. It airs Saturday morning on CBS, apparently, because they don't. Then long ago they stopped airing any kind of cartoons or anything. They just do that infotainment stuff, and it's got that Mo Rocca guy from the Daily Show. But I just stared at this show, which is apparently in its third season, because seasons 1 and 2 are already on DVD. And I'm just like, it's amazing. I've never fucking heard of this. You know, like I never knew this fucking existed. And it just kind of struck me a bit of how irrelevant TV in general, but especially network TV is anymore, at least to me. I mean, thinking about it, there are 3 TV shows that I watch new episodes of when they air. Flash, Arrow, and Rick and Morty. Those are the only shows that I'd be like upset if I missed. Like I watch like new Family Guy, you know, but if I miss it, I miss it. I don't care. Son of Zorn's pretty good. I like that, but you know, it's not a big deal if I miss it. And Son of Zorn's probably easily the best thing on Fox, but even that, I'm like, you know, if I miss it, I miss it. But yeah, it's kind of funny how much network TV is just irrelevant. Like I've never fucking heard of this. I've heard of Mo Rocca. He was one of the Daily Show guys back when, you know, that meant something. And it's basically just one of these infotainment shows where they go, I don't know, they interview inventors or some shit like that. Doesn't matter. But yeah, there were just posters for it all the fuck over the place. And it just struck me how, something could be on TV for 3 fucking years on network TV, and I've never even heard of it. Just TV just doesn't matter. But the other thing that struck me, I went through the Henry, but again, there was the turn of the century thing, and they talk about, the early automobiles are very fascinating to me, even though I'm not a car guy, because the first, up until like the 40s, even, there was not a great deal of rules as to what exactly a car was. You know what I mean? These days, first of all, I mean, with all the regulations and shit, I don't even know if you could start a new car company. But these days, if you want to, I mean, like even things that get a little out of the box these days, people just sneer at and make fun of and want no part of, like the smart car or something like that. They just, oh my God, it's a faggy thing, and yeah, it's a little, tiny little thing. I get that. But I think it's more just cars have become such an intricate part of society now, that what a car is so much more concrete. So when you look at the early cars, um, it's so much more experimental. I mean, you know, some wheels and a motor and whatever else you think to do on it. I didn't. Somebody asked if I drove a Model T. No, but they let you ride around in one with like professional drivers. But yeah, I'm fascinated. And the other thing that struck me is, they're going through, basically this like village will show you about where technology was when Henry Ford was a lad, about where it was, where it went up during his lifetime. And the thing that always struck me is, and you see this from certain parts of the new right, the alt right, what have you, just because they're such traditionalists, they want to romanticize the past too much. When like the past kind of sucked, all right. Like these times that they're so romanticized by so many on the alt right, they kind of sucked, all right. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot we can learn from those errors. There's maybe some things we've forgotten that we need to remember. I'm not disputing that. But life kind of sucked a dick for most people, even in the richest of nations. All right. Yeah, the amount of work you had to put into to just have the basic shit of life, just have some fucking food and clothes, you know, it was staggering. And then just shit like the loom come along, and then a better loom that cuts production in half, and then a better loom that cuts production in half after that. Shit like that. Some of these traditionalists and reactionaries and all just sneer at the very concept of the Industrial Revolution. And I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? I mean, are you really just out of your fucking mind here? All right. And I've always felt this way, but it really stuck in my head the past few days. Certain parts of the alt right, the new right, whatever, they just got this. It's just this infestation of socialism in them, and like they'll bitch about the roboticized economy. I saw this one video with this robot, this giant robot that's attached to this truck that you drive up, and this thing will precision lay these bricks, basically laying the outer area, the walls of a house, perfect pattern. Does this in a you know a fraction of the time it would take people to do this. I don't know the exact time, but I mean just fraction of it. And then the guy's like, "See, this is why we need guaranteed minimum income." No, it's not. And here's the thing: in and of itself, that shit should even out. Somebody's saying, did Bechtloff's audio fuck up? God damn it. Does my audio sound like shit again? Hang on. No, it sounds all right to me. But anyways, um, yeah, like in theory, when you have this sort of stuff, it's the cost of items should come down. It is what evens it out. Okay, yeah, it takes far less people to make um, one house, or it takes them far less time. Um, but by the same token, now in theory, a house should cost less. That gets a bit mucked up when you have so much usury and debt and shit like that in the economy. That tends to muck things up a lot more. But in theory, if things are easier to make, they become cheaper and more people have them. You have access to so much shit in your fucking life. It's just unheard of. I mean, objectively speaking, you live better than a king did a couple hundred years ago. You know, aside from maybe a harem of fucking slave girls. Aside from that, you live better. Yeah. So this idea of like guaranteed minimum income. I mean, yeah, maybe the lower classes of people, they can't. Maybe not as many of them can have factory jobs, and they end up working at McDonald's if things become so roboticized. But maybe fucking working at McDonald's now pays you enough to afford all this shit the factory can make it lightning fast speeds. I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not one of these fucking libertarians that worships the market. But by and large, it evens itself out. Yeah, there's times leaders of a nation need a stronger hand on it, certainly. But by and large, it evens itself out. And like, what was this one? This one fucking tool I used to be friends with on Facebook. I was like, I don't even know the guy, but I was friends with a friend. This fucking, you know, this guy, this smug cocksucker who just, never had a decent job in his fucking life, but thinks he's superior. He's basically one of you get this weird sort of alt-right kind of fedoraism, basically. But he showed this picture of these guys are hauling this computer into this place, right? And it was showing how advanced things have gotten in like the 60s. These guys are hauling this computer up this ramp in this building, and this thing's what, like 6 feet by 4 feet, something like that. Probably a foot thick too. And it all like 6 guys need to haul this thing up this ramp. And then he showed like, he kind of took the picture and held his smartphone over it. He's like holding the picture over where it would be too, and then pulls his smartphone kind of over it. Like, that thing isn't even as powerful as my phone now. And somebody's like, yeah, but those workers are out of job now. They don't have, you know, antiquated computers to haul around. First of all, I mean, other jobs emerge. But second of all, like, so what? All those workers now have, maybe they don't have as nice of a job, but they have a fucking laptop in their goddamn pocket, basically. Their standard of living is still going up. So, this romanticization of those olden days. Yeah, there's traditions that are lost that maybe shouldn't be, and all that. That's wonderful. I'm not disputing that. But this idea that, we got to get back to, you know, going out and washing our clothes in the river and beating them against rock. Fuck that noise. All right. Fuck that. Yes, there's downsides to technology. Yes, we've all become a bunch of fat, soft people, and we need to be hitting the gym. We need to be encouraging physical fitness much more than we do, and maybe we need to not have so damn much sugary food. That kind of shit, fine, by all means. But this nonsense that, this is modern day is bad and shit. Every once in a while, I'll see this meme posted from, some of the fucking. Again, I don't know what the hell. They're almost like alt-right fedoras. Not in that they're atheism, but in that they just have that smug fucking I'm better than everybody despite no accomplishments to my name. But you see this thing where it's like they'll take modern architecture and then like some sort of classical ancient architecture and be like, oh, the death of aesthetics and oh, look at this soulless modern architecture. But the thing of it is, sometimes I like the fucking modern architecture they're showing. Yeah, a lot of it, the brutalism and shit like that sucks. But some of it is sleek and sexy almost. Some of it is really fucking cool. All right. And they just like, no, the stone fucking house is better because it's a stone house. I don't know. I suppose it's any movement that gets big enough, but there are people who just they're dogmatic about it, they're myopic about it, and I can't get in with them. I really can't. I can't throw my lot in with that. And I guess that's why my whole life I've never really had more than 1 foot in any movement. That's just been my nature, sadly. I very rarely am able to sign on 100% on anything. Let's see. Somebody says, ever play any Fallout games, Bechtloff? I can't say I really have. I think the only I've watched friends play Fallout 3 some when I was at 3 a little bit when I was at their house. It just said it sounded like I said threesome. Fallout threesome. No, but Fallout 3 a little bit when I was at their house. But I've never really played any of them. I don't have a tremendous amount of interest in them. They just, I recognize why people would like them, but yeah, they're not for me. One of the reasons I don't, at least with what I've seen of 4, and I think New Vegas the same way, I like post-apocalyptic scenarios where there's still a lot of life. There's something about just the lifeless desert and irradiated and there's barely any vegetation and all. It's just depressing to me. I don't care for it. And this is just a personal thing. I like, say a zombie virus is taking us over and grass and weeds take over the land. I like that just tinge of hope that things still being green give it. And it may be just because I'm not much of a pessimist, but and that's just that's just a completely subjective thing on my part. But let's see. Let's see. Fallout 3 was cancer. New Vegas was chemo. Let's see. It might have been New Vegas now I think about it that he was playing instead of 3. I don't know. Whatever. Let's see. Undertow's in the chat. He was messaging me on the Facebook or on the Skypes. He can hop in. All right, let in the old sidekick, as it were. Let's see. What was the one thing I saw on here? Forney said, "You heard the man, Bechtloff. It's time for you to start taking Bitcoin and snail mail checks." Well, I'd have to set up a PO box. I'd rather people just not have my address, just out there. I realize, if you really wanted to stalk me, you could probably find me. The overall area I live, But Undertow, what's going on?
Oh, the people left my house, so I'm free.
Yeah, don't lie to me. You ain't got no friends.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you think so highly of me. I thought we had something special.
Throws my money at you. Clean yourself up. Oh.
How's your week been?
Not bad. Driving today was, good Lord, what a fucking drive that is. But 9 hours in the car and fun.
Did you talk about what you texted me about earlier today?
Yeah, I did mention that in the Ford Museum. Well, no, I said I was in the Ford Museum. I don't know if I got to that part. Well, the Ford Museum isn't. You would think it would just be Fords. It's not even primarily automobiles, to be honest. There's a ton of that and farming equipment and shit like that. But there's a lot of Americana, and they got this one section where it's like you go through the years of the 20th century, basically, and you get to like 1983, and they got a little thing on the video game crash and on the once thought urban legend Atari landfill, and they actually had and for Saturday I'll probably have Luke throw a picture of it, but they actually had a display of some of the ET cartridges they had dug out of the landfill, some of which were going for a few bucks online, which is telling since they dug a ton.
I find it very interesting. That was at the Ford Museum. What?
Well, there was also tons of stuff on like airplanes and stuff that wasn't even. It was primarily Ford's, but it wasn't even primarily automotive. I mean, there was just American
airplanes. There. I can understand because Ford did a lot for the engine, which was obviously
some of them were actually Ford
development.
The automotive section had a few non-Fords there. Like oddly enough, they had I think it was like a 1980 Honda Accord.
I'd be willing to bet that
because they had just like the cold 20th century, and they were talking about what an important model that was, that it really solidified the reputation of Japanese cars being, the indestructible economy shitbox that you get, that's just peppy, reliable, and, affordable. But it was an interesting, they had, I can't remember the name of it, but they had this futuristic house they wanted to build in the 40s that was metal and circular, right? It was almost based on like some like almost ship designs, how it was really good use of space and all, but didn't really feel cramped or anything. Well, they couldn't get enough investors to mass produce it, and they could have mass produced this house. Like the factories that made all the airlines during the or all the airplanes during the war could have easily been converted to just mass produce these damn houses.
Yeah,
like this could have been what the suburbs looked like. And in some ways, cartoons like the Jetsons and all took their inspiration for their houses from these designs.
Well, that makes sense because that was what people were putting forward at the time as like.
But I mean, it's a full. You can go into it. It's a full house that could easily a family of 3, like one kid, could live in that easily, and not even feel cramped. It's such an amazing use of space because it looks so small on the outside. It looks like the size of a fucking one of those diners you'll see along the road. That used to be a trailer.
You'd be really surprised, actually. Somebody who did a lot of research and development into this area was actually Roger Dean. Do you know who that is?
Off the top of my head, no. The name sounds familiar, though.
He is the guy who did all of the cover album art for Yes, and also Asia, and a lot of his surreal paintings became like album art and stuff. He's very famous for Yes's Fragile has that tiny planet with the house on it and stuff. Just a lot of surreal landscapes and stuff. But he always would do these paintings of houses that were like made out of coral. So they were like big coral reefs that were hollowed out. They were kind of like wasps' nests, but for people. And he actually did a lot of research with an architectural firm who had a lot of people who liked his designs. And they were doing some research on how that actually worked in real world architecture. And what they actually found was that the lack of corners really puts people at ease because it's very natural, very almost womb-like, they said, because they were being very Freudian about it. But I mean, even to go less Freudian than that, it's more like a cave. It harkens back to something primal in us that feels like a home because it's more rounded. So even if you don't have that much space, as long as you have, curves and lines and grand designs. Sorry, a little bit of more prog rock quoting there, but no. But as long as you have these curved areas, it actually is very, very peaceful and puts your mind at ease a little bit.
Yeah,
Just
it was very interesting, and I don't know if it would have taken off, but
would that have made it a flying saucer?
well, yeah, but basically, investors got
off,
involved in it and wanted to just basically turn it into a normal house made out of metal, and the guy, the guys that were behind it were all like, "Yeah, fuck that," and they just never got the money together to get this off the ground, as it were.
If only we had Kickstarter back then.
Maybe. I mean, shit.
They could have produced 3 and then run out of money and been sued.
Yeah, they
would have been great.
The other thing I did with the old man is he wanted to do the factory tour, and it was kind of interesting. Again, getting back to just the glory of the industrial age, and what the Ford plant was like. I mean, Ford didn't invent the automobile. I mean, some people might think he did because he became so synonymous with it, but he didn't really even do that much for it. He mastered the mass production of it. Now there was some assembly line stuff going on in, say, meat packing plants and all, but basically he was very good at looking at a process.
He took it to the next level
and refining it. He would frequently tour his establishment and just talk to workers and say, like, well, what are you doing here? How could this maybe go faster, easier, quicker, whatever. It was extremely good to his employees. Extremely good.
No. He was an evil capitalist pig.
He paid his employees at a time when you were making around $2.50 for a day's wage. He was paying them $5. And
No. He was undercutting them, and he was chomping on a cigar, and he was evil because he made money.
Paid him $5 for a day's wage and worked them 8 hours instead of 10. And actually saw productivity go up, not just for the increased wage, but at 8 hours is when productivity starts to nosedive. That is how it is. He put in safety features that almost no other place had. Anybody could stop the assembly line with basically pulling a lever or something like that. Now, you better fucking have a goddamn good reason if you do, or else you could walk out the door. But anybody could have at any time, and that was something that a lot of places didn't have. Bill's hands getting caught in the machine. Well, Bill's either going to lose that arm or be dead. It's either going to rip it off or it's going to suck up all the Bill. So when the fucking unions finally came to Ford, I mean, he took it personally. And I've even heard people argue that, like, that was damn near the death of him, because he didn't live. Now, he was an old man anyways, but it knocked the wind out of his sails. He gave housing to his people. He gave training to his people. He educated them. He looked for people online to bring up further into the company. I mean, he was as good of a fucking boss as you could have. Now, yeah, it was a hard work. But for the time, that was a job you wanted to have. People sucked a dick to get a job at Ford. All right. I mean, people poured into Dearborn by the thousands trying to get a job at Ford. Actually, this is another fun fact, but Chevrolet was actually founded by Louis Chevrolet, a mechanic that Ford fired. A mechanical engineer that Ford fired, not because of anything that had to do with his job, but because he was a drunkard and a womanizer. And Ford just didn't want to have to deal with him anymore. Didn't like.
So what you're telling me is he made his own car company with blackjack and hookers.
Yes, that is exactly what he did. That is exactly what Louis Chevrolet did.
Amazing.
But yeah, and so we took the tour of the Ford plant, and they're pimping. We're all about innovation, and they're trying to make their plant green and all that stuff like that.
The world of the future.
And like they've got one thing called a living roof, where they have
a garden on top, basically.
Yeah, basically a really well structured garden, so that the roots will never get into the roof, but it's to handle rainwater primarily.
Yeah, I've heard of those. I like that kind of stuff, though.
Then that's again,
Like I would do
industry
that
tends
just
to
for the
even
cool
itself
factor,
out.
not
Yeah.
because oh wow, look at how good I am because I do this. I just think that's neat.
The new F-150, I think it is gonna have a all aluminum body instead of steel.
That's already been made.
Yeah, but the new one, I shouldn't say is going to, but that's the one they're pimping right now. Now it's basically made to order from what I was told.
Mhm.
And but it's a lot, you'd think it wouldn't be as strong, but it's still pretty damn tough.
Mhm.
But yeah, I got to go see the the assembly line and all that they got, and I mean it's as efficient as I've ever seen a factory. And I've worked in a few myself, and it's amazing how, I mean, I'm sure it's monotonous as fuck, but yeah, it's to work
And
it,
that's
but
kind of the definition of a factory job.
you know, but that's the thing. Factory jobs, and I've had enough myself to know it's either monotony or it's chaos. Like those guys that got to travel, or they had guys on little, motor carts, bringing supplies to each of the stations. And I did a job like that before, and it can be a fucking nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, let's say there's 3 of you out on that floor, there probably ought to be 5. That's how that works sometimes. Yeah, I did one where the factory was split into thirds. There were 2 what they called utility people in each one, and if it was busy in your section, you needed about 3.
Wow.
And you noticed it after one of you took lunch too. But yeah, it was all really interesting, and I mean they're, and Ford's the only Ford's the American company that did not take the bailout.
Really?
Didn't need it.
Hmm.
And, they were like, no, thank you.
Interesting.
Caesar's coin comes with a cost. We'd rather not. But yeah, General Motors and is it what's Dodge's parent company? I think it's Chrysler. Yeah, they both took it. Ford actually does really well in foreign markets. They kill it in South America. They do pretty decently in Europe, and while there's almost no foreign market or American market in Japan, aside from some high-end stuff, if you ever see a non-high-end American car in Japan, it's Ford. You're not likely to, but you're not
dishonor.
But yeah, it was an interesting trip. I mean, it's not necessarily something I would have picked, but the old man was doing it, and I don't like him. I didn't want him driving 9 hours on his own. I mean, I'm half his age, and I don't want to drive 9 hours on my own. So
yeah, I don't think anybody does.
Yeah,
most I got in me is 6, usually.
Yeah, I mean, I could drive 2 hours.
That's how long it takes to get to Orlando.
I don't mind it at all. 2 hours. I'm enjoying it up until about the 2 hour mark, and then it starts to get old. So yeah, while I was gone, there was a runoff election. Bill O'Reilly got fired. And,
wait, what? Really?
Oh yeah, you didn't catch the beginning of the stream. Bill O'Reilly.
No, I was working today, and then I had friends over this afternoon.
Fox News cut ties with Bill over this last sexual harassment thing. They just had enough.
Sexual harassment? What?
Oh yeah, it was. Bill O'Reilly's had tons of sexual harassment problems.
Oh,
Bill O'Reilly cannot keep it. Bill, he's a Bill Clinton. He's a Bill Cosby. It's something about naming your kid Bill. Just don't do it, mamas. All right, he won't be.
Maybe it has to do with his family. Like there's an O'Reilly factor or something.
I don't know. But yeah, Fox finally had enough, and like I said earlier, I mean, I realize Bill is a big draw for him, but I tend to think anybody at the 8 o'clock slot on Fox News would have become a huge star. And we're replacing him with Tucker Carlson, which, as far as I'm concerned, a massive upgrade. And I mean, there's just something about like when your boss has to constantly clean up the same fucking mess for you over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. I don't care how much you're doing for the company. You are on thin ice.
Yep.
No boss wants to fucking deal with it, especially when it's something that is very, very avoidable.
Yeah.
You know, just stop pulling your dick out, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just stop doing that. All right. So yeah, there was that, and then the Facebook killing. That was
that's obvious. That's one
that was unreal.
Yeah.
I was listening.
Do you know how they finally got him?
I had heard this. He stops at a McDonald's. The McDonald's employee recognizes him, tries to stall him by telling him he's at like a drive-through, telling him like his fries we're waiting on your fries. He finally panics and just drives off. But it had been enough time the cops caught up with him.
Well, he needed that Szechuan sauce.
Yeah, he needed that. That's what this was all about. That's what
it's his whole character arc.
He claims it was about this woman, but really,
yeah.
But yeah, so this fat black guy gets cucked, then kills some random motherfucker because he's all sad about it.
And it finally gets caught because he can't resist those sweet, sweet McNuggets.
He claimed he had killed like 13, 14 people. Far as we know, there's no evidence that happened. No bodies have turned up. That, you know, so it seems like he just killed that one old man and was a bullshitter. But I mean, again, like I said, you know, fucking Pole can find Shia LaBeouf anywhere on this planet.
Where in the world is Shia LaBeouf?
You know, in fucking days. But you know, at least can't fucking find a big fat black guy who's streaming his fucking moves on Facebook.
Yeah, that was the thing that really took me off guard. Excuse me. Seasonal allergies are finally acting up again on me. But like when I remember when they said, "Oh, they took his stream down," I'm like, "Well, that's okay. They wouldn't have done that without knowing where he was first." But they didn't.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like I heard that they
really got to me.
What they apparently did was they just deactivated his account.
Like,
look, I could understand if you'd have done something like shadow ban him, where he could still stream, but the people can't see it. But maybe the police can, because I said that to my dad. I'm like, they deactivated his account? What the hell? He's like, oh, I'm sure the cops can still see it or something. I'm like, I think you're giving Facebook too much credit.
Yeah.
But I'd have just left his account open. I'd have just left it open to the public. Maybe maybe fucking, the detectives on Pole can help out.
Yeah.
That's what now look, I'm not saying
we would have had him in a day.
I'm not saying you leave that shit open because it would have encouraged him to constantly broadcast his fucking moves.
Yeah.
When you deactivate his account, he's not going to just hop onto Instagram or something. You kind of suck the wind out of his sails there. I would have let him have that audience to get the cops to catch him, but that's because Facebook is run by shitheads.
Right? Oh, we can't let the people see violence.
Meanwhile, they'll leave up fucking ISIS videos and shit like that. Oh, look, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have taken his account down the moment he was caught. But it should have been the moment he was caught. And not a goddamn minute sooner.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I know nobody. I was caught off guard seeing that shit because I was watching, it was a little bit after he had streamed, but I was watching a stream from Mr. Matoker Sunday, and somebody had sent it to him in that stream, and he just watches it with barely knowing what the hell it is. So yeah, I watched this fucking guy get murdered. I didn't even really have much warning myself. Like, holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, he committed suicide before the cops got to him, which,
because he's a fucking pussy.
Yeah. Couldn't even go all suicide by cops. No, that
could dish it, but he couldn't take it.
But, good. Oh, and of course he was fucking Muslim. Which, by the way, that's something some right-wing people have pointed out. And then, of course, the cops are always, it didn't have nothing to do with it. Well, yes and no. This wasn't a, strictly speaking, religiously motivated crime. He was just mad that he got cocked and he was a fucking psychopath.
But it's just one more to put on the pile, though, isn't it?
What it is it's just that much more evidence of the type of people that are attracted to that religion, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like something about Islam attracted deranged motherfuckers.
Could it be the power tripping and lording over other people incessantly? Nah. It's a religion of peace.
Yeah, it's a religion of pieces. Yeah, that fucking poor old man got fucking shot on Easter, because this guy was upset that his girl was getting some side dick. It's sad. I mean, truly a case where a black man was saying hands up, don't shoot.
Yeah.
And yet I'm just not hearing a lot of MSNBC coverage of it. Yeah, I mean, it sounded scary at first because the guy was talking about I killed 15 people and shit like that, and you're like, you never know. But from what we can tell, that was all bullshit. It was just the one, and again,
I mean, one too many.
It took days. It took days to find him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think he switched cars. Oh, and CNN, when CNN first reported this shit, they didn't show his face at first because he's not a fucking they didn't have time to Photoshop him to have a swastika on his forehead and blue eyes, I guess. But then one of them, I what was the exact wording? It was like dark white skin.
No, I believe that I'm told that the dark white skin thing, that was a hoax.
Are you sure?
I've been told that. I'm not 100%, but that's actually what I heard that from was actually the Hate Bit podcast last night. Or was that 2 nights ago? I don't remember now.
But the not showing his face at first thing, like
that
they were saying they didn't have a picture. You didn't have a picture of
a guy who was on Facebook. Yeah,
he was killing people on Facebook. I don't know. If only there was like something you could easily click on that's usually a face picture of somebody when you go to their Facebook account.
Yeah.
No, he probably just had a profile picture of Pepe the Frog because I'm sure he was an evil alt-writer. But yeah, that was amazing. It took him days to find that guy. It should have taken him hours, if that. And again, shame on Facebook for how they handled this. Shame on you, Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody says Mr. Matoker even had pictures of the one who cucked him before CNN showed who he was.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, where's the real media is not on TV anymore. It's just not. You were looking at yesterday's news if you're watching the TV. And that's if you're not getting fake news.
Well, if you type CNN is into Google, the first thing that comes up is fake news.
Not wrong. Not wrong at all. I was saying earlier, I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't really, like, I wouldn't bet that it would happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if O'Reilly ends up going to MSNBC or CNN and being their token conservative to beat up on just because he's just so desperate for the limelight. I mean, be there Joe Scarborough or something because he's only, right of center anyways, which, he can be their far right guy on CNN. Yeah, fuck Bill O'Reilly. We're better off without Bill O'Reilly's influence. Especially if we're getting Tucker
Bill
Carlson.
O'Reilly gets fired. You gets fired. You can't explain that.
You can't explain that. We'll do it live. He's going to make a YouTube channel just called Doing It Live. And he's going to live stream every night at 8.
Kind of like you.
Yep. Only I might actually have more views than him because I'm pretty sure his audience is so old they don't even know what YouTube is.
I think I put one of those into my TV to fix it.
I highly doubt his octogenarian audience is going to follow him to YouTube if he goes there. Yeah, maybe he can go co-host the show with Megan with a Y. The Fox Squad. Me and Bill O'Reilly. You're getting like 12 people watching him live. I mean, shit. I mean, there's probably people under 30 who don't even know who Bill O'Reilly is. Like, significant. I mean, honestly, like, if I tune in to Bill O'Reilly, I throw the median age of his fucking viewership down a good solid couple of years. I mean, you talk about, an old aging audience. I mean, yeah, TV in general has that, but like, the average age of Bill O'Reilly's audience, I would love to know what that is, because I bet you it's easily in the 60s. All right, somebody says there's a Cloak and Dagger movie. Like, you mean the Marvel Comics characters? That's news to me. O'Reilly was so pompous. That's what his problem was. No TV show. Cloak and Dagger. Okay, Cloak and Dagger is going to be a TV show, probably on Netflix, I would imagine. Yeah. I mean, isn't that where Marvel puts all its shows? I hope it's not going to be a TV show, because their actual TV shows suck dick. Fucking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is terrible, and Agent Carter was even worse. Let's see. Trailer was just uploaded a few hours ago. Well, I'll check it out. I mean, Cloak and Dagger is kind of cool, but let's see if they're butchered.
What is Cloak and Dagger?
It was these characters that spun off out of a Spider-Man thing, where it was.
Excuse me.
They've had multiple origins over the years. Like, they've constantly
Well, I mean, who hasn't?
Like, they're like, well,
even Rick Sanchez has multiple origins now.
Yeah. It turns out that one thing is wrong like a dozen times with Cloak and Dagger. But basically, there's this chick who can throw like blades of like psychic light almost.
Cool.
And then she hangs out with this guy Cloak, who has this big like black cloak that is also like an entrance to the shadow dimension.
Oh, I love that. So it's Meta Knight's cape.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's a white chick and a black dude though, so I don't know. The alt-right might fucking bitch about it.
Well, black dudes are better at sneaking,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you wanted to be
spot in the dark.
Really, here's why it's a black dude and a white chick. Let's be real here for a second, because this was not Marvel Comics today, where you can't have a white man showed positively. No, this was like the 80s when this happened. Okay. And this is why the artist did this. I don't know this confirmation, but I'll tell you exactly why the artist did it. Dagger, the chick with the light powers, is a pale-skinned, blonde-haired, blue-eyed chick. And the dark guy, Cloak, is a black dude.
Wait, you mean they did that for color contrast?
Yes. In other words, they did that.
No.
Now, they are sort of a couple, but they haven't always been a couple, you know what I mean? Sometimes they've just been partners, as it were. But they're almost a couple by nature of their powers. Like, Cloak has to be around Dagger, because the nature of his powers means he almost needs to feed off her light. There was actually like a storyline where he was separated from her for a long time, and he was going kind of crazy and just sucking mostly bad people up into the shadow dimension. Because he just had to fill the void, as it were. It just consumed him.
The literal void.
Yeah, the literal void. That he walks around wearing. So, yeah, that's a case where it's like you can't even claim that's propaganda. It was basically just the artist who visually designed these characters just wanted to make sure he hammered home the fucking point. That was actually back when we did things in comics because of actual creative reasons. Which is also why no one was fucking mad about it then.
Yeah. Makes sense to me.
But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a Cloak. I always enjoyed them in Spider-Man. They were usually Spider-Man characters. I mean, I think they had like their own mini series here and there, but they were primarily they'd show up in Spider-Man books. Let's see. Let's see. Anything interesting in the chat here? Somebody says modern architecture and modern art should be destroyed. To be honest, again, modern architecture, it depends with me. I mean, yeah, I'm not a fan of any kind of brutalism or anything like that, but I like sleek, efficient designs.
The sort of modern art that is intentionally ugly should be destroyed.
Yeah, I don't like architecture.
The celebration of the destruction of beauty needs to be ended.
Yeah, I like
those styles can't be adapted to make something genuinely beautiful.
Yeah, I like architecture that has a sleek, modern, almost advanced kind of style to it. I enjoy that. I think it would be cool to live in a house where you feel like you're in a goddamn Star Trek or Jetsons or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be very interesting.
I like Star Trek.
Yeah, I was going to say the Jetsons, and then I just mixed the two in real quick before
I know.
But anyways, I like kind of you see bachelors will have this a lot, like well-to-do bachelors, where it's a very dark tones to everything, where like black leather and dark mahogany wood and shit like that. I like that kind of architecture. Everything doesn't have to be a fucking traditional stone house. I don't. Yeah. Now with modern art, what I think is interesting about modern art is now certain styles of. I mean, look, you can do stuff that's just expressionism, kind of emotional. Just colors mixing and all. You can do that and have it be very breathtaking and beautiful. Or you can just do Jackson Pollock bullshit where you splatter paint on the wall. Now. Yeah. I mean, some of that, we've come to find out was even CIA funded to break everyone's spirit. But one thing I've always thought was interesting about modern art and even postmodern art is, to some extent, it's good experimentation. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. In other words, if I hang a fucking urinal upside down, and like glue an upside down urinal to the fucking ground or something and call that a sculpture, that's not art.
And ironically, that was the point of that art piece, by the way, was that wasn't art.
But the point is, like, if I say that's art and you say it's not, you then have to think about why. Mm-hmm. So in and of itself, there's something as a fad, I think postmodern or modern art is useful in that regard. To stretch the ideals, to be experimental. What exactly makes something just splatters of paint on a canvas or a painting?
Mm-hmm. And the modernists or postmodernists will tell you, well, there is no difference. It's all just, nothing has any meaning. It's just paint on a canvas anyway.
I mean, like, you talk about modern architecture, you can easily point to some government bureaucrat building that's just completely soulless or something. Or you could point to some skyscrapers that are just breathtaking.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them are just glass and steel, Yep.
But the way they're arranged is meaningful.
Pittsburgh had some of the most. I lived in Pittsburgh briefly, and it had some of the most gorgeous architecture. There's not a lot to downtown Pittsburgh. It's this tiny little, maybe it's like a couple of miles at the tip of where the Ohio and some other river meet. I forget. But there's a few skyscrapers there, and they are gorgeous in their design. I can see the pit. I recognize some of those buildings at a glance. And they're modern, but they're just impressive. And yeah, you compare that to, say, a drab government building that's just soul crushing. Mm-hmm. Like I said, everything doesn't have to be a little stone house by the river or something. You get too sucked up into that kind of thing, where you think new is automatically wrong. I guess you were coughing or something. Somebody's like, "Did Matt Forney join the stream?"
No, I blew my nose. So
Oh
was
yeah,
like,
that's what it was.
like I said, allergies acted up for the first time of the year, really.
Somebody says I stopped watching Shield after season 2. Yeah, honestly, like I couldn't even make it through season 1. Like I got like a few episodes into it and realized like I am watching this because I feel like I should, because I enjoy the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And you know what was really heartbreaking? They did that spinoff show that was like Agent Carter. And it was like Captain America's girlfriend after he was frozen as a spy, right? Two things wrong with this. Number one, the bullshit feminist thing of she was a lady spy back when they didn't like that. Bullshit.
Yeah, they always liked lady spies.
Yeah,
Some of the oldest
women
spies
have
in
always
history
been
were
spies,
women.
all right? You know?
In fact, that's one of the things they're best at, actually.
Yeah. Well, even Art of War, it says send prostitutes to the enemy to acquire information. Yeah. Lady spies was always a thing, okay? But even worse than that, what I thought was such a missed opportunity with it, you have a Marvel Cinematic Universe show set in the Golden Age. This is the perfect opportunity to take some of these Golden Age pulp era characters that Marvel owns that would be completely new to the general public.
Yep.
There would be shit they've never seen even the likes of before. I mean, the Gen Pop barely knows what the Shadow is. You know what I mean? They don't know anything about that kind of pulp era shit. You could put like the Destroyer or Miss America, or the original Citizen V in there, and people would just eat that shit up. And they didn't, none of that. It was just, first of all, it was remember the 40s, and they're getting like my dad told me he watched the show of that and they got the wrong year. Like they had a car from the wrong year there.
Wow.
He's like, this show was taking place in like, I don't know, 47, and this car didn't come out till 49 or something. Like they couldn't even do the research to get that sort of shit right. But also, again, it's just like, ooh, that I don't even think that show lasted more than a season. Now I think about it. I know I got halfway through the pilot, so when I'm like bored. But yeah, it's such a missed opportunity. You could have done 3 months. Could have done so much with that, and they didn't.
Oh God, I'm out of tissue paper and I'm having to do this with paper towels.
Ooh, that sucks.
Oh my no.
Why don't you just try toilet paper?
Because I ran out of that too.
Oh my God, what are you wiping your ass with paper towels?
No, I've saved enough for that, but
okay.
I have to be careful.
Yeah, it's a shame when that Agent Carter.
Yeah, I'm actually not so sure this is allergies. I might actually be sick.
Oh no! Oh, he's caught the AIDS.
Remember me as I was.
Blowing his nose in the
microphone. Devastatingly handsome and incredibly charismatic.
As much as you give Forney a hard time for that, I gotta say. Oh, to be fair, Forney does it way too much.
Well, I don't do it into the mic. I like turn away. Like Tayson Day, I turn my head away to breathe in.
And there it is again.
Whew. Oh, that's better. Air. I'm breathing. Air.
Oh. Well, I think I'm going to wrap up the stream. I think I've rambled on long enough here. You got any closing thoughts there, Undertow?
Nope.
All right. Well, thanks for hopping in. All right. So I'm probably not doing another stream until Saturday, unless there's some sort of really breaking news I want to talk about. But yeah, everybody, thanks for listening. If you enjoy the show, if you enjoy the channel, check out the tip jar below. Show some love. That's greatly appreciated. And that's all we got for tonight, folks. Bechtloff out.